In our continued discussion of privacy, we now turn off the computers and look to living in the real world. As we engage in the various parts of society, we want to first consider how to pay our way through it. This brings us to our payments. How do we buy and sell? Of course, in business, a paper trail of money will make sure we can steer clear of IRS problems, or is that KGB problems? And even when I am paid in cash, I report that income on my taxes. But when I go into the world for a little living, I prefer not to leave a paper trail. Yes, cash is king, as Dave Ramsey likes to say. In my case, it is king because it does not leave a record of everything I do. This plan is not without risk, so let's discuss the negatives first. The largest valid negative is issues of chargebacks. If you have a credit or debit card company by your side, you have an intermediary in the event of issues. Of course, the majority of issues are actually related to fraud and people stealing your account numbers, so cash actually solves that issue. Hard to take my cash and use it when you're in China and I am in United States. And before we leave this topic, I want to dispel a myth that is so oft repeated, many of you think it's true, but it is completely 100% wrong. Your debit card from your bank has the exact same protections as a credit card. Yes, many people will say a credit card has protections, your debit card doesn't. That is patently false. In the USA, in the event of a dispute, the bank is required to put the money back into your account immediately during the entire course of the investigation. There is no difference between a credit card and a debit card when it comes to fraud purchases. If you don't believe me, you can ask Visa and MasterCard. The first negative is loss. When we start discussing using cash instead of plastic, or worse, some data-sucking app on our phone or watch or fitness band, we start hearing, but what if you lose it? Sure, you will not ever lose money that is on plastic, well, except for those pesky hackers. But the assumption is people go to the bank to get a bunch of cash for the whole month and then carry around thousands of dollars everywhere. That is not how to do cash. Instead, you go get your money out and you take it home, putting most of it in a safe or hidden in some book. Then you take a small amount of money to carry around. If you're planning a night out, take a bit extra. Planning on going to picking up a new TV? Bring more. The point is, cash is actually rarely ever lost. And if you are doing cash correctly, even if you do lose some money, it is never a lot. Of course, the last reason many people like to stick with plastic is the perks. Many people will tell you to apply for credit cards for the signing bonuses or to keep the cards with the best cash back. I see a few major problems with this approach. The first, constantly signing up for and canceling cards overly complicates your life. If I cared about credit scores, which I do not, I could say this negatively impacts your credit. The second, while many cards do give cash back, the actual amount is insignificant to the amount you will pay in interest the first time they do not receive the payment on time. Remember when Providian was shredding people's payments? Or maybe you charged something you could not pay for right off the bat. I do see most of the people suggesting to use credit cards in this manner are generally upper middle class and will absolutely be able to pay the bill when it comes. But for the average person who lives a lot closer to paycheck, the risk is way too high to ever use this as a reason to use plastic. My final reason to avoid the cycling of cards directly relates to our case here: privacy. If you are constantly applying for these different cards, more and more companies will invariably grab your data, sell it to their third parties, and you will have no end to the amount of companies that know a lot of data about you, Not to mention, the more companies that have your data, the greater risk it will be stolen in a data breach and used against you. Now on to privacy. With those common objections answered, let's talk about privacy, or rather, the lack of in the digital payment systems. We have a few methods, of course. We have discussed credit cards and mentioned apps. These are two methods of payments, including your standard Visa and MasterCard or Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, PayPal, and other similar payment methods around the world collect a lot of data about us. It is not just a ledger of an amount we have spent, it is the amount, usually what we have purchased, the time, the specific location. On top of that, many companies share that data. If you are using a credit card, obviously the credit card company has that information. But did you know Google also gains access to the credit card data for over 70% of all credit card transactions? Facebook does too, by the way. They use this data to determine the effectiveness of advertising campaigns, and they sell it as a perk to their advertising partners. It is worth mentioning cryptocurrency here. Generally, that is better for privacy, but it is not anonymous, as many have suggested. To my knowledge, and I am woefully ignorant on crypto, so please research for yourself, Monero is really the only anonymous crypto. We will not be discussing crypto in this video. If we are using a payment system connected to an app, that company gains access to the valuable data we provide. Remember that buying and selling data is big business, and mostly it is used to get us to buy more things, so this type of data is particularly valuable. Our data can not only inform companies what we buy, but it can determine our trends, the time we work, when do we have lunch breaks, and discern the locations we like to go. You can think of each purchase as a check-in to a point on a map, each point attached to real products and actual purchase amounts. This is too much data to have out in the wild. There is too much potential risk for such data being accessed, breached, or just used against us in order to sell more goods. The solution is to go off-grid with most purchases. Going off-grid. When I talk about going off-grid, I am not talking about going completely in the absence of any alternative payment methods. I do keep a debit card in the wallet, though it is very rare that I actually use it. I use cash for groceries, gas, entertainment, and other odds and ends at the local grocery stores. Using cash in these cases prevents the card issuers or app companies from knowing the things I buy from the store. It protects my location data and makes sure that Google does not know where I like to shop or eat lunch. I get my cash out of the bank 2 or 3 times per month. I will get out enough for a few weeks, get most of the shopping done in one fell swoop, that way all the money's pretty much out anyway, and then leave a bit of cash in the wallet for gas, putting the rest in a small safe until I need it again. As for personal expenses, everything small always goes on cash. Whether it's lunch out or snacks or groceries or trinkets, cash is what I use or I do not buy. The exception is when I may need a little more expensive personal items. Anything over $200 usually goes on a debit card just to have that bank buffer that I mentioned earlier. That balance makes sure I am mostly cash and off-grid, but not 100%, which is a great compromise in my particular case. Online purchases can be trickier. Amazon is the easiest to go cash. Here in the USA, and probably in some other countries, each Amazon account actually has a cash account attached to it. You can get a barcode from your account, print it out, or put it on your phone and add cash to it at a variety of stores. With this method, I can purchase on Amazon without needing a plastic form of payment. By the way, you can use my Amazon affiliate link to make your Amazon purchases, and that will help support this channel. Have a look at the link in the description down below. Other online companies are going to be a little harder. Most of them will take some form of prepaid debit card. That method is usually a little bit more expensive as there are processing fees, but if you want to use cash online, that is a great way to do it. Another method is that many popular online stores have gift cards available. You can buy those at the local store with cash at cost and use those for your online purchases. The bottom line is that life is a little nicer when we get used to cash. We can hold better control over our finances, keep our data out of the hands of data brokers and hackers, and still engage in society. I will urge you all to try going cash for a month or two just to see what results you get. Let me know your thoughts on all these tips and tricks and your own experiences in the comments down below.